Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This episode we have Netflix 361st film from 2020. It's a drama called Concrete Cowboy. It says directed by Ricky Staub and stars Idris Elba, Caleb McLaughlin, Jharrel Jerome, Byron Bowers, Lorraine Toussaint, and Clifford Method Man Smith. I am Jesse, I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today for this episode as we go through the Netflix original film catalogue. As always, if this is a film that you haven't seen and you're interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because I'm going to discuss the film, we're going to talk about it, we're going to spoil it, and it's probably best to listen to this probably after you've seen the film if you want to watch the film. So we do start the show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, it's about a troubled teen who's sent to live with his father to find himself. This is one of those nice sort of feel-good films, I guess, even though it does probably have some moments that will bring you down throughout this film. So let's talk about how this one ended up on Netflix. This one, it's actually based on a novel called Ghetto Cowboy by Greg Neary, which was inspired by the real urban African-American horse riding culture of Philadelphia, and in particular, the Fletcher Street Urban Riding Club. So this is based on real characters, and we're probably going to talk about it a little bit now. I guess the film, and the story, it's completely fictional, but there are several real members of the Fletcher Street riding community who play supporting characters and give voice to real issues that the community faces in real life as well. So nice little touch there as well. The film in English, it's Concrete Cowboy. So in translations around the world, in Portuguese and Spanish, it's called Philadelphia Cowboy. So adds the location to the idea of cowboys as well. In Bulgarian, Hungarian, Russian, Chinese, and Turkish, it's called Urban Cowboy. Not bad, not a bad title as well. Almost a little bit better than Concrete, I think. In Greek, it's called the Asphalt Cowboy. Yep, that's a direct translation of Concrete into Asphalt. In Japanese, it's called Concrete Cowboy, The Real Me. Don't know if I like that subtitle. And in Polish, it's called Cowboy on the Concrete Prairie. That sort of ties into, I guess, the whole idea of cowboys and horses. This film, we go back to August of 2019, where it was announced that Idris Elba, Caleb McLaughlin, Jharrel Jerome, Lorraine Toussaint, Byron Bowers, and Method Man had joined the cast of the film, with Ricky Staub directing in his feature film debut. This is from a screenplay from himself and Dan Wasler, based on the novel that we mentioned before, Ghetto Cowboy. Elba and Lee Daniels served as producers on the film, and there's a character called Amali. This role was originally written to be a drug addict in the film, and when Liz Presley auditioned for the role, she built up a few days of sleep deprivation to make her performance believable. The character was later rewritten to be a nurse, so very interesting there. Filming for this film did begin in North Philadelphia in August of 2019. The director, Staub, originally got the idea for the film after seeing a man riding a horse down a Philadelphia street, which led him to research the Fletcher Street Urban Riding Club and then discover the book by Neary as well. The film was set to have its world premiere at the Telluride Film Festival in September of 2020, prior to its cancellation because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The world premiere was then held at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 13th, 2020, and in October of 2020, Netflix acquired the distribution rights for the film for a release in 2021. So that's why in the intro, I did announce it as a 2020 film, not a 2021 film. In March of 2021, it was announced that the film would be released on April the 2nd, 2021 to Netflix worldwide. This film had a budget of about $10 million, so fairly decent, was filmed in and around Philadelphia. It did win an award. It won the Directors to Watch Award at the Palm Springs International Film Festival. It was also nominated for Outstanding Independent Film and Outstanding Breakthrough Performance for a Male for Caleb McLaughlin at the Black Reel Awards, and also nominated at the Location Managers Guild International Awards for Outstanding Locations in a Contemporary Film. So a little bit of award recognition there as well. Let's look at the critics and audiences. What are they saying about this film before I get into my thoughts on this one? Rotten Tomatoes sits at 80% on 126 reviews. So that is certified fresh. So very, very fresh there. The audience a little bit lower at 70%. That's on more than 250 ratings. So on Rotten Tomatoes, you'd probably say these are some pretty high numbers. And that's where this bit gets a little bit surprising for me. On IMDb, it's only got 10,000 ratings. Sits at a 6.3 out of 10. So that's an okay result. Letterboxd, again, a 3.3 out of 5. So a very solid score. That's only 17,000 ratings and has been logged by 22,000 people. Not a lot for an Idris Elba film, I would say. Metacritic, positive, positive, positive. They have that traffic light system of red, yellow, or green. For the critics, it sits at a 67 out of 100 on 33 critic reviews. Green on that system. And the audience as well is green on that system too. Sits at a 6.4 out of 10 on 30 reviews. So, yes, the numbers might not be great, but overall you'd say this has some pretty good recognition. What are my early thoughts for this film? Am I going to recommend it? Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I think, it's well made. It feels good. It's got some great performances, especially Idris Elba. I mean, there's a couple of scenes that they're almost like the Oscar or the award bait moments, whereas these little preachy moments, and he does a great job. You wouldn't know that this guy's British in this film. Like, we know Idris Elba's British, but he pulls off that Philadelphian horse riding cowboy very well in this film. But let's talk about the characters in this film. Let's talk about Cole. I guess this is Cole's film. Cole is that troubled kid who's struggling at school. The school system's given up on him. The law's coming after him. His mum's used up all her options. So that's why, regrettably, she doesn't want to have to do it. But she sends him to live with his dad, who he hasn't had any sort of relationship with. It's tricky because, he goes and he gets dumped on his dad's doorstep. He doesn't want to be there. You don't get the feeling that his dad doesn't want him, but the idea that his dad has such a good connection with this community, with the horses, with the other kids that, are probably down and out as well, and he's teaching them how to ride horses. So I think that's that tricky moment, that the first real connection that Cole makes is with another horse, this horse called Boo, that is the hardest horse in the stables that no one can connect with. So that sort of gives him a bit of momentum to continue this growth as a character and try to turn things around. And we'll talk about his dad, Harp. This is the guy, he himself has had a troubled past. He's found himself amongst the horses, and he rehabilitates the horses, and he's found a meaning in life. And like I mentioned before, I didn't mention this, he lives with a horse in his living room too, and that's about all he has in the house. There's no food, there's no drinks, the fridge is empty. And he wasn't expecting his son to come back into his life. And I think it's a bit of a surprise for him. And we learn throughout the film that he wanted to be there for his son, but he probably thought it was the best thing for his son to not be there, be around him, or be a poor or a negative influence on him because of some of the things that he's done in his past as well. But you never get the feeling that he sees Cole, his son, as trouble or anything like that. He knows what having a child means, and what it means to have a father, or to not have a father almost, and he wants the right thing for Cole. So I think that's a good little way of summarizing him. The other side characters in the film, Nezzy we meet. She lives in Philadelphia around the stable. She's like this mother-like figure who helps to snap Cole into shape almost, alongside Paris, who is this wheelchair-bound rider who also has a sad backstory. And none of these characters in this film are perfect. There's not one character that's perfect. They've all had their downs, they've all had their outs, but the themes and the ideas that we'll talk about soon about family and perseverance and persistence, they ring true in all of these characters as well. Apart from maybe Smush. Smush is this character that's put there to sort of show Cole the difference between the life he could take or what he could do if he follows what his dad wants. I think he's Cole's cousin from memory. He reminds him of the life he had in Detroit, the life that his mum doesn't want him to have that idea of drugs and party culture and alcohol and crime. And the whole town, or the whole collective of horse riders or cowboys here, that they know that Smush is a bad influence, and they want him to stay away from Cole. Otherwise, he has no chance of changing. He has no chance of development. And it's a clever character, I guess, to have the complete opposite of, or show Cole the path that he could take as well. The only other two characters I'll mention are Leroy. Leroy's the cop. That's a Method Man, and he's black as well, and he identifies with the Cowboys, but he's also got to do his police work job as best as he can. And Esha, she's this love interest that they drop in for Cole, and I guess it's another option for him not to follow that bad pathway. That there's a love interest there that's interested in him and wants him to do the right thing as well. The director, Ricky Staub, mentioned before that this is his debut film, but also like done a bit of assistant work on a few big films. The M. Night Shyamalan, The Last Airbender film, Snow White and the Huntsman, and also John Wick 4. So interested to see where he goes, whether he continues along this directing path. Time to talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that stood out in this one? What are some scenes that I didn't necessarily like? Ones that I liked, or the standout ones to start off with. We see Cole arriving at his dad Harp's place for the first time and finds a horse in the living room or in the lounge room. That was funny. That was a funny moment. That sort of gave a little bit of humour to what had been pretty dark so far. We have then Cole sort of learning the ropes of the stables, and to prove his worth, he's got to shovel horse poo manure. And it had some really funny moments, like getting it on his brand new shoes and the endless amounts of poo and the struggles he's having with it. It did go on for a little bit too long, but it was humorous at times. There's a moment around the campfire, and this is a moment where there's lots of history of the cowboy experience that's sort of spoken about, and there's a moment where they sing, and one of the guys, his voice was so good, and he plays the harmonica. That was really good. I like that moment too. Harp has this moment with his son Cole, where he sort of explains, I think this is where Cole gets a little bit emotional and upset and says, that everyone here gets treated better by you than himself. Everyone, all these young kids are getting developed as horse riders. He doesn't care about him, and he breaks down and he cries, and this is that moment where Harp has the ability to explain his past and his crimes and being locked up and the mother leaving him, and he doesn't blame the mother, and he wanted that one thing was to name his son, and he named him after John Coltrane, this musician, because he was the greatest man he knew to do it without a father, and I just thought that was a nice little moment. I also liked another moment, I guess, between father and son, where Cole is hiding in the stables with that horse Boo that no one would go near, so he knows he's safe there, and his dad finds him and hugs him after we see that Smush is killed, and that was just a nice moment too. And finally, Leroy the cop, he helps Cole and Harp at the end to let the horses out of police custody. That was just a nice moment. He's like, what have you been waiting for? I've been waiting for you to come and do this. So that was a nice moment too. Things that didn't necessarily work, the whole town, there's a moment where Boo, this crazy horse, and fortunately Cole knows how to settle this horse, but the whole town circles this horse to try and calm him, and then Cole comes, and he's going to be able to settle him, and he's going to be able to get onto him and ride him, and we know that his dad's going to be proud. It was just a bit on the nose. As well as there's this cookout party scene, that was a little bit boring. And Leroy the cop, I said that moment I liked before, but there's a moment where he knows that Cole's done the wrong thing with Smush, and he picks up Cole and drives him to the racetrack to sort of teach him a lesson. It was a bit lame, as well as that idea, I guess, is with Cole and his relationship with Esha. It almost wasn't needed. Why did he need a love interest? It didn't necessarily have to happen. What's some themes? What are some ideas from this film? What's the film trying to say? Obviously, it says a lot. And I think it's fairly well done. That idea of sense of self and purpose, especially with a connection to animals. So they talk about that experience of, nature's not supposed to be tamed. You're there to work with it. I like that too, as well as that connection with family and making family what you see fit, because home isn't a place. A home is family. Redemption and second chances also plays a big part in that too, and owning your choices and your mistakes and moving on and trying to develop and grow and picking that right path. Gentrification, I thought it was subtly done really nicely. That idea of developers coming in and buying up land and forcing those with the least in society to move, and that idea of urban life versus rural life and what that does have to offer as well. The father-son relationship, but that plays a big part between Cole and Harp in this film too, and the impact an absent father can have on someone, and then when the father and son are together, the things that can be achieved if they're working together in the same way. Perseverance too, not giving up. The idea, or that draw that the world of crime can have, and the idea of easy cash over hard work, because I think there's a line that hard things come before good things if you work hard for it as well. And it's got to touch on that idea of black representation and the story of black cowboys, which is not necessarily been seen on film very often. The idea of cowboys is often whitewashed by Hollywood, and I know there's a line in the film that's probably a little bit on the nose, but it's important, I guess. I think that's what I was trying to say. What did I take away from this film? I think like the scenery, the cinematography in this, especially the shots in between scenes of the city and everyday life and the horses and the sunset and night, so good. Just really put you in the mood of what was going on in this film. I did also like at the end, the credits, there's these little interviews with the actors from the film who are actually real life writers, and it happens over the credits. I thought, they were nice, but it was so short. A full feature of this would have been good, or a side documentary. I thought that was really good. Anyway, IMDb, we often have a character that we may recognize, an actor that we see on the screen that we know. For me, that we look up on IMDb to see if we were right. I didn't need to look this one up. This one was a really easy one for me. As soon as he came on the screen, Jharrel Jerome, Kush, as soon as he was on the screen, I was like, yep, I remember you so much from, obviously he's in the film Moonlight, but the Netflix miniseries about the Central Park Five, I think it was When They See Us, that was it Ava DuVernay? Excellent. Like, he was so good in that. Just such a recognizable face, and he gave a good performance in this, in a character that, he probably has better acting chops than what was needed for that character of Kush. Questions, ponderings, thoughts, ideas, anything in this film that stood out for me? I think there's a big deal at the start of the film where Harp makes it clear to Cole that he needs to stay away from Smush. That idea that he's going to kick him out. He doesn't want him to go down that bad path. And yes, they have that conversation. We see some moments where he's making that choice. And then we see that Cole continues to be friends, continues to hang out with him. But his dad, it's like he doesn't find out. Like, how did he not find out? It just didn't make sense. He's out at night, roaming the streets. Surely his dad, knowing the bad influence that he has on him, or could have on him, would have been a bit more attentive. It just didn't make sense for me in this film. Anyway, I'm ready to wrap this one up. We've spoken a bit about this one. So for me, we obviously need to give the film a rating out of 5. This one, it's worth a watch. I'm surprised, I guess, with those numbers that I mentioned at the start about, people that have logged it on IMDb or Letterboxd. I thought more people may have seen this one, but obviously not. So I'm highly recommending this one, especially if you're interested in American stories and history too, and stories that you may not know about. This is an interesting story, an interesting part of culture and society that a lot of people, even I think as I was looking up this film, the idea that there's people in Philadelphia that had no idea that there's horses that roam the streets like this, that people ride horses, and they have communities like this. So I think that's a really important story. Performances were good, story was good, messages were good. This is a 4 out of 5 for me. Solid film. We are on socials. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like if you can. The post for this episode that I wanted to pop up, or the question, was the idea of, can you ride a horse? I feel like I've had, we're 400 plus episodes of Netflix original films, and it's hard to come up with a different question. But obviously this film is about horses, and I feel like I've told this story before, but I can't ride a horse. I did it once when I was very young, probably 11 or 12 years old. I got bucked off, petrified of horses since then, can't go near them. I'm interested. What's so good about horse riding? I know there's lots of people that do it. It's a big thing. So how do you get back on after you fall off? I know that everyone's like, the easiest thing to, same with the bike, you fall off, you get back on, give it a go. I just can't do it. I can't do it. Any tips, let me know. Other than that, we are back next week. We do have another episode from next week. This film has an official release date of 2021. This one is a Dutch rom-com, a romantic comedy. It's called Just Say Yes, and it's directed by Appie Boudalla and Aram van der Rest. It stars Jolanthe Caboo, Hoob Smit, and Jim Buckham. Interesting, a Dutch rom-com. I don't think I've ever seen a Dutch rom-com, to be honest, so interested to check that one out next week. As always, thanks for hanging out today. If you want to see that one, give it a watch before next week and have a listen, and I will see you then.